Okay, are we ready to begin? All right. Good evening. I'm Commissioner Amy Malloy, and I'm representing the board at tonight's charter school hearing. The board is required by law to hold a public hearing for all proposed charter schools. As board members, we are not permitted to make comments pertaining to these schools, but are required to open the hearing for public comment. It should be noted that charter hearings conducted by the Board of Education are neither an endorsement of charters nor disparaging of charters. We are mandated to allow for public comment, and I encourage those watching from the public to sign up to speak at these charter hearings with our board clerk. So good evening. This is a charter public hearing for the Rochester Sports Academy Charter School. The time is now 5:01. The Education Law Subdivision 285-7 and regulations of the Commissioner of Education require the board to conduct a public hearing within 30 days of receipt of notice of an application for a new or revised charter school. The Board of Education of the Rochester City School District is conducting this public hearing regarding the Rochester Sports Academy Charter School within the City of Rochester. The purpose of this hearing is to gather community input to provide to the New York State Education Department regarding the application. The Rochester Sports Academy Charter School's mission is to develop the next generation of off-field professionals in the sports industry. The Rochester Sports Academy Charter School's 21st Century Curriculum Framework will prepare RSA scholars for the rigors of instructional programming by providing students that represent the diversity of the greater Rochester community with access to high academic standards. Students that graduate from RSA will be global thinkers, committed to lifelong civic engagement because of focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion practices that promote creative opportunities in the next level of sports and life. Rochester Sports Academy Charter School proposes a 5-year term serving 400 students in grades 9 through 12. I understand that we do have one person signed up to speak this evening, and that is a community member, Gabriel Marshall. So welcome, Gabriel. The floor is yours for 3 minutes.
Mr. Marshall, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. When you're ready, you have 3 minutes to speak, okay?
Okay, thank you. So my name is Dr. Gabriel Marshall, and I'm the proposed Chief Visionary Executive Officer at the proposed Rochester Sports Academy Charter School set to open in the fall of 2022. So as a former high school and college student athlete, a former high school English teacher, former college professor, former college counselor, former college men's basketball coach, and current college administrator, our founding applicant group and I are excited really about the opportunity to provide students and families of the greater Rochester community an educational experience grounded in the principles of teamwork and empowering all students to achieve lifelong success. Based on our mission that was just read, and our vision to empower all students to achieve success on and off the field by being a part of a team, we really wanted to focus on really our key design elements and what we would do. So by focusing on 3 key design elements, we really are looking to provide a school culture that builds character within our students and challenges them to reach their full potential. Our core beliefs are respect, high expectations, data-driven decision-making, cultural diversity, community engagement, and social and civic engagement. Another one of our key design elements is our sports career pathways, which are sports business management and administration, sports technology, and sports health sciences. And through those career pathways, we plan to introduce students to careers outside of being athletes and teach them how to build strong relationships and networks to support their personal and professional goals. And our last key design element is our school schedule and calendar. And we implemented this design with the understanding that COVID altered the learning process and environment for students. And in some ways, so we really needed to meet the needs of students and families where they are. So through block scheduling, an extended school day, and our summer institute for incoming freshmen, professional staff, we're designed to better prepare them and engage throughout our academic year. So our team is really committed to holistically developing students and including families throughout the process, as well as creating professional opportunities for Rochester Sports Academy team members to grow as leaders and continue perfecting their craft. So we will offer students a learning environment that exceeds expectations through awareness of student needs, current educational trends, challenges, and a willingness to hold one another accountable as a member of our team. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marshall. If there are no other public comments, and I don't think there are, it is now 5:06 p.m. and this hearing is officially adjourned. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Finance and Resource Allocation Committee of the Whole meeting. I am calling this meeting to order. The time now is 5:33 p.m. on 10/19/2021. First item on the agenda is speakers addressing the finance agenda. So I'm going to turn it over to the board clerk. It's my understanding we have several speakers tonight. That is correct, and most speakers are joining us today on Zoom. And so I'm going to find out if our first speaker is with us. I have an Araya Camion Lind. She is a parent speaking about CERSA and ARP funding and RCSD's 5-year financial plan. Are you there, Aria?
I am here, yes.
Wonderful. Whenever you're ready, you have 3 minutes to speak.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Good evening, President White, Vice President Elliott, Chairperson LeBron, Board of Education Commissioners and Superintendents, Dr. Myers-Small and Dr. Nelms. It is my pleasure to address the Finance Committee this evening as a proud parent of 3 Rochester City School District scholars. Tonight, I am asking you to use short-term and long-term funding strategies to meet the needs of our students. Our children are faced with multiple pandemics at once: racism, poverty, segregation, food instability, housing instability, the delusion of white supremacy. COVID-19 is only the most recent pandemic for our kids. Please use our CRESA and ARP dollars and create a long-term funding plan to support hiring and training adults who can support our young people through these multiple community-level traumas. I implore you not to invite law enforcement officers back into our school buildings. We fought long and hard during the 2019-2020 school year to remove school resource officers from our buildings. Advocacy based on years of community engagement and grassroots activism. Our youth have told us time and again that law enforcement officers do not make them feel safer in school. I am telling you, yesterday, today, tomorrow, that I do not want sworn law enforcement officers in my children's schools. I do not want any professional involved in the carceral system in my children's schools. Please spend our money on the staff and training for restorative practices and justice, conflict de-escalation and resolution to help our communities determine what makes us feel safe at school. Spend our money to address the social emotional supports, delicious, nutritious food, engaging and culturally responsive content, and invested, interested teachers, administrators, and staff that will help our scholars overcome the struggles and traumas they face every day and thrive. I'm begging you to please center our children in each and every decision you make about budgeting for our scholars. Funding for a supportive school atmosphere. No funding for police and SROs in schools. No RPD in RCSD. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aria. Thank you for addressing the board. I have another speaker who is with us, joining us on Zoom, and that is Victoria Robertson, a parent. Victoria, are you there? Who is with us, joining us on Zoom. Victoria, you'll need to mute your feed.
Oh no, I think I've lost you.
Okay, when you're ready, you can turn on your video.
I'm trying. Okay.
Wonderful. You have 3 minutes whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Victoria Robertson. I have a senior at Wilson High School, and my son is a proud graduate of Wilson High School. I want to tell you that absolutely we need to address the safety needs that the various unions wrote in concern of, and that our children recovering from this pandemic, from these multiple pandemics, as Aria so clearly said, need help. But RPD, pulling the police back into the schools, is not the answer. Staff and students deserve to feel safe and supported. There is all sorts of data as we all like to be data-driven, that demonstrates that police in schools does not make students safer. Instead, it leads them towards the school to prison pipeline. We all know we want to stop that. Let's not open the gates up again. Keep that valve closed as much as we can. Find alternative ways to support the kids. Use community agencies to help in staff help zones. Fund restorative practices fully. Use that ARP money to really get adults in the building that can work with children, can learn to de-escalate, can train other adults to de-escalate. And if there's a crisis, deal with it at a specific school. But each school should be developing their own safety plans with what works for them, with enough resources, and RPD should not be a part of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Robertson. We appreciate you addressing the board tonight. Our next speaker is Jessica Fleming, a parent who is also addressing the CIRSA and ARP funding and school safety. Jessica, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, whenever you're ready, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. I'm here to address the board. Hi. Yes, I'm here.
Okay, whenever you're ready. You're going to need to mute your other feed, okay?
Sorry. Okay. Sorry. So I'm here to address the board on how we are spending the funds. I'm also concerned, like many others here, about sneaking RPD back into the schools when the students are who organized to get them out of their schools. Many of these students have been home on a pandemic, experiencing over-policing by RPD in their communities. They've experienced nationally known abuse of power and corruption and abuse of Black lives. They then experienced, many of them experienced tear gas at the hands of these police. They experience, you know, what's now nationally recognized as a police brutality, and RPD is under national investigation for the way that they treated protesters, including some of our CSD students. And when we think about community safety, we have to think about the community, the mental health protection and the protection of the students, and not just the perception of safety. We know data suggests, we all know that the data doesn't support putting cops in schools. We all know about the school to prison pipeline. And I think that when we tell students that, you know, when you organize and fight for what you believe in, and then, you know, staff can come in and override because of, you know, this archaic idea of safety with police officers. So that's a really bad message for our scholars. We can hire and train adults with using the restorative approach that we know works. I've worked as a behavior tech for most of my career, and the police are not trained in de-escalation. They're not really, this is not their foundation. They are not helpers. They're not educators. They're not social workers. And there's definitely a better way. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fleming. We will now welcome Mary Adams, a parent, who is speaking on the CIRSA and ARP funding. Mary, are you there?
Yep.
All right, whenever you're ready, you have 3 minutes.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I am, of course, very, very upset by many events that have happened in recent days. I'm really upset that the administration went and met secretly with the Rochester Police Department, with lieutenants and the acting chief. The total lack of transparency is just, it's really distressing. I mean, this has always been a problem with controversial issues in the district. But really what I want to say is that the crisis in safety right now is real. There absolutely are crises in many of our schools. And by the way, East is not the primary location of that crisis. The secret meeting with Rochester Police Department took place in the morning, well before the situation that happened on Friday, where football game had to be delayed because of a serious situation. Just want to put that out there too. That's an issue with narratives. I'm also upset that the superintendent has tried to marginalize specific board members by saying that certain board members might be upset about the return of Rochester Police Department. This is a community-wide body of work over many, many years. And many of you there have thanked me for my role in building school climate, working in coalition, representing the school board several years ago in that work. I don't want thanks. I want you to resource implementing the code of conduct that was passed in 2016. We have the resources now, we do. I'm concerned that there's not going to be capacity in central office to appropriately spend the resources that we do have to support students. Rock restorative, and again, I was tactful, I was careful, I was making suggestions, recommendations, trying not to overstep my voice. You know, we have this body of work, we had rock restorative, we had a whole infrastructure that was building and building momentum, that was getting involved in many different schools against the odds, supporting decreased suspensions, decreased arrests, more positive school climate, more students passing classes, the data, the reports are there. That has been rolled back. You have dismembered rock restorative. You have dismembered that, and you've used phrases like it's a mindset. Restorative is a mindset. It is not. It is a careful, deliberate, intensive, difficult, multi-year work that has been dismantled. And I'm very, very upset about this. This is resulting in the safety crisis that we have right now. Clearly, police are provocative. Clearly, police are a condescending atmosphere for our students. They are not a solution. They have never prevented violence. The reason we're having violence at the levels that we are is because we have a community crisis, and the headway that had been made in this district has been undermined. I'm not going to be careful about it. I'm not going to be polite. It has been actively undermined over the past 2 years. Shame, shame on you. Fund more SSOs. That's what my husband has been saying for months and months and months. Pay them better, train them better. The resources exist to train them.
Ms. Adams?
Place rock restorative. Fund, take advantage of New York State Education Department's culturally responsive sustaining framework. Bring in technical assistance to implement that because you do not have the capacity to do it. We need you. I don't want thanks. I don't want anything but action so that we can solve the safety crisis and our students can learn.
Thank you, Mrs. Adams. We will now move on to Carly Fox, a parent who is addressing the board regarding CERTA and art funding and SROs. Thank you. Carly, are you with us? Oh. Is she connected now? Okay.
Hello.
Hello, welcome.
Hi. I need to have my video off. Thank you everybody for hearing my comments. My name is Carly Fox. I'm a parent.
Carly, I'm going to need you to turn on your video if you can.
Okay. I will in 1 minute. Trying to be safe here.
All right. Whenever
Trying
you're
to
ready.
bring children to activities. I am a parent of a student at 15 school and graduate of Wilson Magnet High School. And I admittedly have mixed feelings about the issue, but a couple things I do feel really strongly, about SROs in schools is that restorative justice and all of the incredible investment we need to do into conflict resolution is something that we should absolutely be doing if we're going to be bringing police officers back into the school. And from what I understand, although I haven't done as much homework as I should, it looks like the proposal is to just fund SROs, but not bring back the restorative justice work that was so incredible and got cut. The other thing I wanted to mention is just that we've learned over and over and over again in the city how dysfunctional RPD is, and that we really need RPD to be more accountable. And so it doesn't make sense for us to enter into a contract with Rochester Police Department given what's happening, and the recklessness with which they work with the community. And I think especially for the students, that's a problem. And so while maybe school security officers are important and help, and can be sort of under the administration of the RCSD, I believe that entering into a contractual agreement with RPD is not a good idea. I say that as a parent, as an alumni, and as an aspiring teacher.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your comments tonight.
Thanks. Thank you.
We have our next speaker, who is Ethan Wynn, and I believe he is also connected on Zoom. Ethan, are you with us?
I am.
Okay, when you're ready, please turn on your video, and then you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. Thank you to the board. I'm speaking as a parent of a school 12 scholar, and I have 2 or 3 points upon which to base my request that you not re-engage the RCS, the RPD in reinstating our SROs in our schools, and instead fully fund the ROC restorative program and expand it, and fully fund the 130 social worker positions that were moved last year. As they all need to be reinstated before we even talk about SROs, which we should not be doing for clear reasons. For one, my child, as parents, we love our SSOs. They are amazing. We trust them. They do a great job. We should be expanding that program, not going SROs. 2, SROs do not work, period. More police contact increases risk of incarceration. There are better solutions that we should be prioritizing. The fact that there is SRO funding and not full funding of restorative, frankly, is a shame in this budget. And finally, as the recently released records under Section 5080 show, some of the most publicly visible SROs have pages-long records of citations and infractions. We cannot continue, the idea of re-engaging that program instead of expanding the ones that are proven to work, it really should not be even entertained, frankly. And I'm unclear how exactly parent voice factors into these processes and these decisions. I think we've had a lot of hearings lately. I really hope the board uses this opportunity to demonstrate that you are hearing our voices and you're open to reworking proposals that we do not think are feasible and finding solutions that really work for our scholars. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wynn. We appreciate you joining us tonight. Our next speaker is Stevie Vargas, a community member who is speaking on CERS and art funding as well as RPD. Ms. Vargas, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, but we can't see you yet.
Oh, hold on 1 second. Can you see me now?
No.
Let's just start my video. All right, good?
Yes. All right, whenever you're ready, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. I am here speaking as not only a parent, my child has entered pre-K and he will soon be entering kindergarten, but I'm also speaking as an education advocate, someone who has worked really hard with community members, parents, and students on the ground to make sure that cops get out of our schools. Rochester parents, students, and members of the community won a huge victory this past June when our tireless collective action led police being removed from our schools for abuse and criminalization. The attempt to bring back our SROs, especially in secret, not only directly contradicts our wishes, but will take resources away from ensuring that our schools aren't pipelines to prisons. I'm highly disappointed in seeing cops present at schools when I feel our district has not done its due diligence in investing and expanding in restorative practice programs. I have seen nothing but divestment from those programs. And I have seen the videos of altercations at schools, but I have not seen an investment from the district in investing in programs that are proven to work. There is no proof that having cops in schools mitigates any violence. If anything, it exacerbates it and makes students feel like they are not welcome in the school setting. And I don't think any dollars coming to the district should be invested in more punitive measures against students. We need to create a holistic approach that gets to the root causes of these incidences happening in schools. And we need to see those investments at the district level. We need to see that you are invested in this because we're not seeing that right now. And I do want to thank members of the school board who have been tirelessly advocating to get SROs out of school, keep SROs out of school, and make sure that we are investing in the programs that truly work. Ricardo and Beatrice, thank you for standing by community members. I'm not sure where the rest of the school board members stand, but a lot of you have been oddly silent. And as a parent, we need you to get it together and work with parents and stand by the community and do not make these backdoor initiatives to try to reinstate cops in our schools. Money should not be going towards that. It should be going towards programs that help our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vargas. We appreciate your comments tonight. Our next speaker is Mercedes Phelan, a community member who's speaking on CIRSA and ARP funding. Mercedes, are you with us? We were having some trouble getting connected. Mercedes?
Yes, hi.
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 Okay. Whenever you're ready, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm ready. Forgive the sloppiness of my statement as we had almost no time to even respond to this. And right now I'm fully furious. I'm the parent of a 4th grader at School 58 and a co-chair of the Citizen Action Education Committee. Given everything we know about the years of work the students, community members, and organizations and district staff have put into reworking the code of conduct and the implementation of restorative systems under Ruth Turner, it is shameful that the suggestion being made right now is reinstituting SROs in our buildings. The district had data-backed success after the investment into the ROC restorative program. The community has been advocating ever since to expand this work that works ever since. But instead, the program got rolled back. And now at a time when we need it most, with students transitioning back into school after the COVID closure and virtual learning, you are turning to police. It is unconscionable, especially when so much data also supports why police in schools is a terrible idea. It criminalizes our children, creates psychological trauma, and contributes to the school to prison pipeline that disproportionately affects our Black and Brown students. I cannot believe how ill-informed and short-sighted this move is. Honestly, how dare you even consider this? It's absolutely shameful. We got the CIRSA and ARP funding to support our kids as they transition back into school, and this includes mental health and social emotional needs. Where is this money being used to actually do that? What systems and supports are in buildings? What are you doing to hire and ensure social workers are available in the buildings? What partnerships have you created with organizations like PEERI, Gandhi, Center for Youth, Pathways to Peace, Ibero, and Teen Empowerment? How are you utilizing staff who have been trained in restorative practices and justice? How are you training more? This is a paradigm shift. You need to train and support people. What is your plan to ensure every single building has mental health services and a solid action plan for district-wide implementation of restorative practices? Your response is lazy and destructive. You sabotage this program, and now you want to do something that students have fought for years to stop. Thank you to Beatrice and Ricardo for being advocates for this, but other board members, Willa, Amy, Van, where are you? This is shameful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now have our last speaker, who is Eamon Scanlon, a community member who is addressing the board on CIRSA and ARP funding, as well as the RPD. Is Mr. Scanlon in the room? Okay. Let's just give him a few minutes to connect. Mr. Scanlon, are you with us?
Yes.
Okay, you have 3 minutes whenever you're ready.
Hi, board. I'm here as, well, it's confusing. I'm here as a representative of the Children's Agenda. I'm the Education Policy Director. When we received news that the board was considering and the administration considering reinstituting the School Resource Officer Program and already stationing police officers outside school buildings, we were very distressed. I want to be clear, a vote for the SRO program, a vote for police on school grounds, is a vote for the school to prison pipeline. If you support this, you support students being handcuffed, you support students being pepper sprayed, you support the overcriminalization and disproportionate arrest of students of color. That is what this is. Research is very clear. Police in schools do not make them safer. There's no conclusive evidence of this from multiple studies. What multiple studies do show is that students of color are disproportionately arrested when there is a presence of police officers, and suspensions are higher. This is the wrong direction for this district. It was a great victory in June of 2020 when you took a new direction, and to go back on that promise is a complete reversal, a distrustful thing that you were doing with the community, and frankly, terrible policy. You are hurting your students at a time when they are greatly traumatized, dealing with all the fallout of COVID, from everything from deaths in the family to the violence in the community. Yes, the violence in the community and the stress of all these past 18 months. And so rather than getting to the root of the problems that students are facing and supporting them, you are recriminalizing them and re-traumatizing them through police presence. This is a failed policy. You must reject this. And every one of you that votes for this is voting for the school to prison pipeline. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scanlon. We appreciate your comments tonight. Madam Chair, that is the end of our speakers. I want to note that we also have 8 comments that were submitted to the record, and those may be viewed on the district's website and also on board docs.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone who came out to speak tonight. Up next on the agenda is reviewing and acceptance of the minutes from the August 17, 2021 Financial Cow minutes. Can I get a motion for those minutes?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going
Are
to
we
open
voting?
the voting. Okay.
There we go. All right, I think everybody, did you get all the votes in?
Mr. Adams, I was waiting on your vote. Are you?
So I'm updating
The system?
my computer.
Oh,
Okay.
no worries. So you're a yes?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay, no worries.
Thank you. Up next is our Chief Financial Officer, Carlene Pierce, who's going to give the November 2021, oh wait, are we doing that? Yeah, I'm going to have Carlene present first, and then we'll do the resolution review. So Carlene Pierce, our CFO, you're up on the September 2021 unaudited financial report and trend analysis. Thank you.
Thank you. Complex technology. Good evening, President White, Chairperson LeBron, Commissioners, Superintendents, and Dr. Jallo. It's an honor to be here before you this evening and a privilege to serve the children of RCSD. As usual, we're going to get started with our report this evening to discuss the cash flow. And the point that I want to make with regard to the cash flow is that we are holding our own. We're going to see the impact one more month from the fact that we do not have a RAN, but again, we are still, like I said, holding our own. The true story is going to be in the next 3 months, and I want you to take a look at those bottom lines very carefully for the next 3 months from October, November, and December. And we're going to be talking about this a little bit later this evening, but This is a point, again, where our SRSA ARPA will have impact on our liquid cash flow. This liquid cash flow is for all funds, and so therefore SRSA and ARPA will be included within this. And what I want to say here with regard to this is that there's actually going to be 1 week within December where our cash balance will be reduced to about $5 million. And so, again, what we need to do is remain cognizant of that fact, of our spending vulnerability. If we are not diligent in our and disciplined within our spending, we could be at risk. So I just want to put that out there, that that is something that we do need to consider. We fully expect that the state will be walking this walk with us, as they have shared in the past, that they will be there for reimbursement and will be timely. And we have every confidence that that will take place. Where I'd like to go to next would be on page 15, Kalia, if that's okay. Because we have the visual again of what this looks like without the numbers and just in the graph form. You'll see those dips, again, showing the vulnerable points in the next 3 months. And then if we go to page 15. On page 15, we are looking at the budget transfers or journal entries that occurred over this past month. And what I really want to point out this particular month is that you're going to see the establishment of the grant funding. So be it SRSA or ARPA or title money coming in, all of those budgets are being established. So that's what you're seeing is the movement there with those journal entries to get those budgets for those grants established. So it may look a little bit perplexing and confusing compared to what we've seen in the past there, but that is, again, just the establishment of the grants and the budgets within those grants. If we go back to the, sorry, Callie, if we go back to the memo, there's one thing I would like to point out with regard to the H fund and the K fund, and that's where you will see the expenditure of updating our equipment, some of our equipment within our buildings. In this particular case, this capital expenditure is for X-ray scanning machines, so that was processed this past month as well. And lastly, as part of this package, we will have our first payment for our charter schools, and as such, we have promised to provide you with the updates on enrollment levels. So we have to keep in mind that the September 1st enrollment level is actually projections that are given to us by the charter schools in August. So as you can see, it's going to show the where we were last year compared to where we think we're going to be this year. And at this particular point in time, once again, you're going to see where our enrollment is in charter schools is expected to increase right now by 450 students. Again, concerning. This is something that I will speak a little bit more about later on in tonight's presentation. Because I know we're on a tight schedule and I don't want to take too much time in this. We'll go into further detail later on. The other important thing to look at on this particular chart is that for the November 1st number, that number is going to be felt to be much more accurate. So if you take a look at it from the 450 to the 566, we're banking on the fact that it will be closer to that 566 level come that November payment. So again, we have to keep an eye on that because we're running pretty tight. When you take a look at the variance between budget to projection, which is in the far right-hand bottom corner, you're going to see how tight it is. If we actually start to have greater increase than what we're projecting right now, we will be falling short with regard to what we had actually budgeted. Are there any questions?
I'll start at the end.
No questions.
Adams? Commissioner Adams?
No, I'm set.
President White? Vice President Elliott? Questions? Yep. Clark? Any questions? Okay. I do have some questions, just two. I'm sorry, Colleen. On page 3 of this report, Kali, if you can go to page 3. Can you share with us what this H-Fund project for X-ray scanner for AutoClear LLC, what this is?
Right.
Yeah, for the H-Fund, what this X-ray scanner thing is?
Certainly, and we do have Jim Shepherd here this evening as well. So Jim, if I misquote any of this, I will state my understanding, but my understanding is what we're doing is we are actually fortifying the scanners within the buildings that we have. There was some equipment that needed to be replaced, and other equipment that just needed to be brought up to speed, so to speak. Am I saying that correct? Okay.
Do we know what schools we're putting scanners in or updating the equipment for the scanners?
I don't have that list with me this evening.
Shep, do you know? Okay, so we're paying $15,000 per school, because the total amount for this contract is $157,500. So is it 15,000 for each of the schools? Oh, each unit. So there'll be multiple units in the schools?
Right, in one of the schools, Commissioner LeBron, we did have a situation where the times were adjusted so that, in that case, the upper school and the lower school were arriving at the same time, so there wasn't enough equipment to actually accommodate all children arriving at the same time.
And then I guess my final question on this, because I have additional questions, but I'll submit it to the board log, because I just want to understand this one a little bit deeper than we'll have time tonight to go through. Is there a resolution that's going to come before the board for this amount?
I don't know, Mike, if there was one put together or not. This is, it was a requisition that was being passed through.
Oh, Mike, can you turn on your mic? Sorry.
Apologies. Is that on now?
Yeah.
Good evening, Commissioners. There's not a resolution attached to this specific item. We're replacing equipment. We're not adding any new schools. So therefore, it's just using our H fund resources to replenish the equipment, which is an eligible expense.
Okay, so then I guess I need some clarity, because I thought anything over $35,000 as an expenditure would have to come to the board in the form of a resolution. Legal? I'm kicking it to you.
I would defer back to the deputy superintendent or superintendent. If that's how we want to bring it forward, we certainly can do that. It's an item that we really need to replace in order to get our students into school safely and quickly. That's the main reason for doing this, but I will defer to whomever would like to, if they want to change that process.
Legal?
The policy you're referring to, Commissioners, for professional service contracts, this is purchasing, which does fall under a different policy, and it does not have the same thresholds.
Interesting. Okay. I'll keep that in mind, because I've seen resolutions for purchasing come to the school board, but I will.
Sometimes they choose to bring purchasing contracts forward, I agree, but under the two different policies that exist, it does not have to happen in all instances. And what Mike is saying is that this is one that they did not bring forward in that way. I don't know. Tim Schmatt, the Director of Purchasing, has that side of things, so I don't know the specifics on this matter, but there are times where it does not have to, per policy, come to the board.
Okay, I would ask that the board, as an entire body, look at that, because it's a fairly large expense, but if there are expenditures happening to this amount and they're multiple, and we don't know about it, I don't even know if it would have shown up on a report if it wasn't in this finance report. How else we would have been informed of that expenditure if it's not through a resolution that we're voting on and having that clarity and understanding. I will submit some additional questions through the board log. Thank you. And then my final questions are on page 12. Is it page 12? No, I'm sorry. It is the substitute. Where was that? On page 15 we were on? Was it 15? Yeah, it was page 15, but on the bottom it says page 12 of 31. The substitutes, I hear you, Carlene, we were moving these lines around and creating, I guess, essentially new org codes for them. But I was also just looking at the amount that we budgeted for some of these schools. Is that correct? Is that, for example, let me use school number 2, because it's the first one. There's $1,000 budgeted for that school. And then if I look at school number 3, there's $5,000 budgeted for that. And then that says teacher and administration substitutes. So is that the amount that we're budgeting for substitute teachers for those schools or substitute administrators? Is that what that means?
I'm going to have to take a closer look at that, Commissioner LeBron, because I don't want to give you the wrong information.
Okay.
I want to fully understand what's going on in those cases.
Okay, I would like to formally submit that for the board question
Absolutely.
log, and you can answer it that way. But the reason I want to uplift that in particular issue around, I hope that that's not the budget item line for schools, because we know that we, on top of the shortages, always, well, I want to say, since I've been on the board, the fact that we have under budgeted for substitute teachers and not had a proper appropriate system for management of that expenditure, that has been quoted and cited by the state auditors multiple times for this district. And so I would imagine that that's a low amount, especially if administration substitutes is on there, when some of our retired admin subs can make up to $500 a day. So if a school only has a $1,000 budget and we have a higher paid administrator on the scale, that's 2 days worth of work for a retired administrator assigned to a school. So just curious about those numbers.
I fully understand, and I'll make sure you have an answer.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any additional questions? All right, thank you, Carlene.
Thank you.
We're gonna review the first quarter report. Do we review that too here?
Yes, we usually do. Give me 1 second.
Okay, thank you. Is this Mike Schmidt? Who does this report?
It rolls up to Mike Schmidt, yes.
Oh, Mike. Come on down. So Mike, I'll just have you stay right there real quick. I'm not going to have you present this, but I do want to ask my colleagues if they have any questions about the material that's in here. This would be the time to ask to you, or if not, we can submit to the board question log. Does anybody have questions on this particular quarterly change report?
No.
No? Commissioner? Okay. All right, Mike, that was it. I just wanted to, if folks had questions, this would be the time to ask about that particular report.
My apologies for the slow reaction time from the back. I was trying to process the actual report, so
I
I'll be a
know,
little quicker next time.
I'm still also learning this new system because the agenda had them listed a little bit different, and then yeah.
Usually I pull a hamstring trying to get up here faster, so my apologies for the delay.
You're fine. I'm still figuring this out myself. All right, up next is the resolution review. And this is for the November resolutions. And you will notice that the resolutions also look very different this time around. And this is the new format that they will look like. This is part of them being uploaded into Board Docs and how Board Docs generates them. So it is a different format. Certainly take some time to review them. It took me a minute to kind of figure out. I do think it is a little bit more clear on what I'm reading. However, it does take some time to get used to. So if you want to look them over, and if you have any questions that you would like to ask now, please let me know. Are there any questions on the resolutions? President White?
No, I probably will submit one. I definitely will submit one to the question log.
Okay. And again, it's a new format in how these resolutions look and read. So, okay, if there are no questions, I'm going to move us on, and we do have a guest tonight speaking, right? So Laura is here with Action for Education Equity. So thank you, Laura, for coming in to present. For those listening in, Laura is one of our parents who really got involved in the issue around the need for funding for the district in a different way. And I'll let her speak more about that, but up to date, Laura has been fundraising for the district to provide some services that our students need. And that was her call to action, and we're very grateful to have her here today. And I have asked her to come and present to both the board and the public listening today so that they can learn more about the work that Laura is doing and the organization that she's with, and also see how others in the community and board members can get more involved with that. So Laura, turning the mic over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I take my mask down?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. I'm very grateful to be here today. Thank you, everybody. I'm talking to you today about Action for Education Equity, and my name's Laura Smith, and I'm a parent and a Rochester City resident. And basically, I'm just going to take you through a little bit about who we are, what we're doing, and how we would like to ask for some help. So we're a group of volunteers from the Greater Rochester area that are fundraising to support the RCSD. So we are in the process of working to create a smooth system where people can easily support students and donate money and know that that money is going where it's needed most. We have a mission, and our mission is to take action to help students in Rochester, New York thrive by raising critically needed funds for the Rochester City School District and bringing awareness to the systemic inequities that are a barrier to student success. This is a finance meeting, so I'm only going to talk about the first part of our mission tonight, but if anyone does have questions or wants to know about the other part of our work, you feel free to reach out to us. You can do that anytime. So we have Rochester Education Foundation as our fiscal sponsor. So through them, we have transparency and a clear framework on how the money is collected and distributed, and accountability as to what we're doing. All of the information about how much we are paying Rochester Education Foundation as a fiscal sponsor is available on our website. And if anybody does have questions about that, I can take you through the details of that. But that's the way that we've chosen to set ourselves up at this point, because ultimately we would like to not exist and be absorbed into the Education Foundation. So what have we achieved so far? So up to this point, we've raised around about $13,000, and we've donated at this point $9,000 of that to the district. So for our first donation, we reached out to the district to say that we had $3,000, what would you like to do with it? And at that point, that was when students were looking to go back into hybrid learning. So we purchased a number of Chromebook bags for those students to be able to transport their laptops to and from school. And then for our second donation, again, we had $3,000, and we came to the district and asked what you might need. And we were given a list of original Spanish texts that for the 6th grade, I believe. And so we were able to buy half of those with the $3,000 that we had, and then we were able to reach out to other organizations within the community, and through them we were connected with the Wilmot Cancer Institute, and they gave us the other $3,000 to purchase the rest of those books. So at this point, that is what we have donated so far. And really, that was just the first phase of us trying to work out how can we do this, and testing some ideas and seeing what the community response was to that. So what's next for us is that we are looking to clearly communicate RCSD's biggest needs to potential donors. That's the next thing that we're really looking for. So we're looking to create, effectively, I would call it some kind of wish list that incorporates input from students and staff to ensure that we target the money to where it can provide the most impact. So for example, when we talk to students, often they'll say things like, oh, well, our sports kit stinks, or something like that. So, we're saying, okay, well, if you want looking for sports things, then that would be on our list, and as we collected money, we would fund those particular things. So we are working at the moment with the administration to start developing that list and to find a way to develop that list where we have maximum student input at classroom level. So how do we raise money? So the first thing that we set out to do was basically make it easier for people to donate and get involved in supporting the district. So we have a website. And we have the ability to donate directly on the website. We also have the ability for people to donate by cell phone, by texting Action Rock to that number. And we're also set up now on Benevity, which is the giving platform used by quite a few local employers like Xerox. And so people are able to make donations straight out of their salary to support the district. And we do get people donating that way. We're also now set up to basically create a lot of crowdfunding, fundraising, so that people can set up a Facebook fundraiser for their birthday, and that money can come and support the students. We're also now, if anybody uses Amazon to make purchases and uses Amazon Smile, all of the donations to Rochester Education Foundation from Amazon Smile go directly to the Action Fund and come directly to the RCSD. And then we also are reaching out and getting some support from local businesses and other organizations. So at the moment, for example, Laughing Gull Chocolates has a mixed berry chocolate, I think they call it, and that proceeds from the sale of that gets 30% goes towards the fund. And as I said, we were able to make that connection with Wilmot Cancer Institute, so to be able to get donations from them when they know about things that need to be purchased. So that's how we work. And really, I guess the main point of me standing here today is to sort of ask and discuss how we're looking for your help. So we really need support from the community and from the board to spread the word about ways people can get involved. So we have a website, we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, we have an email. I've left them in my handbag, but I have actually got some little business cards that I would like to ask some of the board to take. And it's just a little business card with a QR code. So if you know somebody who's interested in getting involved, they can click that and get to our page easily and find out about what we're doing and how they can get involved. That's all I was going to say. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Laura. I'll start at that end over there. Dr. Jallo, any questions? Commissioner Powell, Commissioner Malloy, Commissioner Adams, Leslie, Dr. Myers, no? Commissioner President White?
No, but thank you for coming tonight. Appreciate it.
Oh, I did want to say one thing. Carrie Pecor will reach out to you tomorrow and circle back.
Oh, okay? Fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you for coming. We appreciate you.
No problem.
Vice
Thank you.
President Elliott? No questions? Commissioner Clark?
Yes, just thank you for the work that you're doing for the Rochester City Schools.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, and Laura, I too want to thank you and all of the donors and all of the parents that are involved in really heaping the call. Like I said, when we were going through the mid-year layoffs, I think that really sparked a lot of conversations for folks, and I just really admire the fact that in your position that you were in and watching that from the outside as a parent said, what can we do? This is so heartbreaking to families in the district, and what can we do at this grassroots level to support the district with this deficit? And then it has morphed into this, and I really appreciate it, and I know that we will continue to educate our educators and our families about this wish list and this desire to help fund some of these things that we can't necessarily always fund very quickly and effectively and efficiently internally because of the system itself. So thank you for coming out. If you can pass the materials to our board clerk, she will make sure we all get them, and certainly we can leave them out and also share them. I'll also make a request that we share them digitally and through social media for the district on behalf of the organization so that they know.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Up next, we have an update on the fund balance, and I am not sure who's presenting that piece. Is that our CFO as well?
Long-range plan first, I think.
Huh?
Long-range plan, Commissioner LeBron, and then fund balance.
Oh, I see on here, I have it as fund balance first. So which one is it,
Oh.
Kalia? Okay.
Oh, okay.
I know,
Looking
the
at-
agenda is different from this agenda, and that's
Got
what's
it.
confusing
Okay.
me too, so thank you again, Laura. All right, update on the fund balance, so CFO, you're up, thank you.
Okay. I had my documents in the other order as well. Okay. The goal of this presentation this evening is actually just to have us focused on three primary areas that we need to take a look at this year we cannot lose sight of. So first up is going to be our fund balance. We're going to make a recommendation to you this evening and then bring the recommendation back in the form of a resolution at a later meeting for your approval and acceptance. We are going to take a more in-depth look at charter school enrollment, as I mentioned earlier, as well as the SRSA spending plan. For the next slide. So with regard to this particular slide, we have a listing now of all the fund balance items that we, recommendations that we have listed for fund balance for this end of this current year. And I just wanted to go over some of those with you. As you'll see, some of them are driven by resolutions from times past. I want to say a special thank you to Carrie Couples, our Director of Accounting, who actually did a lot of research going back into resolutions of the past, as well as taking a look at our current fund balance policy to make sure that we were in compliance with the policy. And so what you're going to see up there are some new items, as well as items that are not going to change. You're going to see, and first of all, maybe I should just ask if there's any questions with regard to any of those items that are listed there on that particular sheet. Okay.
Vice President Elliott.
So just explain, Carlene, what, give descriptions of what these funds are so that people in the audience at home understands what these funds are.
Sure, absolutely. And I apologize, but I left my document at the table back there. I was doing the other one first. Just one moment, please. The long-range plan up first, so I thought I was all organized, and I left the wrong one at the back of the table.
And between the agenda and the online system.
It's not a problem at all, right? Okay. So if you take a look at the non-spendable payments, the first one for $15.6 million, that's going to be the charter school payments that we will pay out, or would be budgeted to pay out between July and August of this current budget year. We paid that out of last year's money, so that then this year we would consider that to be a prepaid. We have restricted allocations there of debt service, flexible spending, scholarships, and student funds. With regard to debt service, that is the debt service obligation that we will have for our current year.
Meaning that's what we have to pay.
Yes, ma'am.
We pay it to.
It would be on the obligations that we have to support our bonds, our projects that we have.
Okay.
Correct.
So that's how much we have to pay for this year?
That's correct.
Okay.
The next item down is, actually the next three items down are brand new requirements under GASB 84, and that was just implemented this year. And GASB 84 is a realignment so that it's removing restricted funds that were previously held in the trust and agency fund and placing them within the general fund. And so again, that is just something, it's an audit or requirement that we have to go through. We're just making sure that we're following the rules as they are stated. And we have moved that now into the general fund because it is now obsolete underneath the trust and agency fund.
So what is flexible spending and what is scholarships and what is student funds? And again, these are questions I'm putting out there so that our audience understands our finances.
Right, so it's my understanding that with the flexible spending account, it's a benefit that our employees would have, and so we have to make sure that we would have that funding set aside for those that are participating in that program. With scholarships, it is just that. It's any money that has been given to the district that would be considered for scholarship payments out to students. We'd have to keep aside the money that was donated for that benefit. And the last is student activity fund, which would be our extra class funds.
So let me just go back to the scholarship funding, so that this is money that, say, someone from out of the district has given specifically to a student, to a specific student?
It would be given to a specific scholarship that would be awarded to students as the student who qualified could be awarded for that money and for that purpose. The committed funds now, the next three down that you see, workman's comp, OPEB, and the insurance claims. The insurance claims, starting with that one, would be, we keep in close contact with the legal department as far as any insurance claims that could be made against the district. So that amount did not change from last year to this year. The same type of thing with workman's comp at $5 million. That is approximately 1 year's worth of expenditure, so we're keeping it at that level. The committed OPEB, this was much discussed this past winter and spring, so that dollar amount now, the increase there by $7 million was a result of Resolution 790. So we have added to
What is OPEB? What does that stand for?
Yes, that's other post-employment benefits.
Okay.
So again, if we had to close our doors tomorrow, what is the dollar amount that we would be expected to be, that would have to be paid out? And in our case, it's much, much greater than this amount, but this is just allowing us that reserve to start putting money aside.
So
It's the
if we
easiest way
had
of
to
saying it.
close today, what would that amount be?
I don't have that off
Okay.
the top of my head. It is very significant, and we certainly can get that to you. It's mind-boggling when you
Okay.
actually will see it.
So Colin, can you explain to me the insurance claims? Is this money set aside for, you tell me?
It's money set aside for possible litigation in the course of the year. So it would be, we would be running with the figures that are being provided by the legal department, who keep us apprised of what those obligations might be for the current year. So it's basically, again, so that you have money set aside that you could handle the obligation without having to have an unfunded expenditure within your general fund budget.
So this, say for example, we have someone that wants to sue the district for $2 million. Is this not that same, that funding?
No.
That'd be another pot of money.
This would be, and I'll let Steve take over, but this would be, because you do obviously, just like with any other insurance policy, you would have insurance money that could cover it, but this would be beyond, to help with, offset some of those costs.
Yeah, I believe this is up to our self-insured reserve. So we're self-insured up to a level. And so we have our litigation attorney go through the list of open cases and decide if we need to set aside a certain amount of money, and we reserve that amount. And if it ever gets up to the $500,000 self-insured limit, then we just set it for $500,000. But most cases are well under that, so we preset those so that since we're self-insured up to that level, we have to make sure we always have a ready reserve of funds if all of our cases
That
came
we
in.
have to pay out?
Correct, that's
Okay.
payout, yeah.
All right, thank you.
The next item down.
I'm sorry, are we still taking questions?
Yes.
Madam Chair?
Oh,
yes, absolutely. I'm sorry, Commissioner Powell.
Okay. All right, so in particular, the committed funds, you referenced Resolution 790. 790 has a provision, it resolved the superintendent shall present requested changes to OPEB committed fund with the goal of maintaining a sum greater than 1 year and less than 2 years of benefit payments. At least once annually prior to fiscal year end, the board This proposal does not increase the amount. It does not bring it up to 1 year. So I need to hear the rationale for leaving it the same as it was back in March when we passed this resolution.
As I recall, Commissioner Powell, the amount was 10 million at that point in time, and we are increasing it by an additional 7 million.
Resolution 790 already increased it to 7 million. There's the resolution that's in board docs for March 22nd was amended on the floor because that resolution originally was to increase it from 10 million to 20,889,000. Commissioner Elliott, that goes directly to your question about what should it be. If we had 1 year of reserves, it would be 20 million, almost 21 million. Now, in the course of preparing that resolution, it was obvious that we didn't have fund balances to support a $21 million, an increase of $11 million. So through discussions, and the record will show this, a review of the video would show that our discussions brought us to the point of increasing it from 10 million to 17 million, an additional 7 million. That was in April. Any proposal now would be to bring it up from 17 million to something closer to the 21 million.
I think, Commissioner Powell, if I'm not mistaken, the discussion that was had at that point in time was that for the past year, that had already been locked down for that amount. And so, again, I'm happy to go back through all of this, but we believe that we acted in best faith with what we knew at the time and what we could do at the time, because the other fund balance for last year when we closed it out had already been settled at that amount. So the year was already closed. So what we're trying to do is bring it up to that amount as quickly as we possibly can with what we have available in which to do it.
I think you need to review the minutes of April 22nd. You need to review the video of April 22nd because it may be a good faith effort, but it does not capture what actually happened. A resolution in April is well before fiscal year end of 2021. The presumption is that the $7 million from 2021 from an assigned fund balance was going to be moved into this committed fund, OPEB, and the resolution clearly states an expectation that it would be increased. Now, if there's a reason why we can't afford to increase it all the way up to a 1 year threshold, that's accepted. I mean, that could be presented to us as a phase-in plan, if you will. But this resolution essentially, this proposal is essentially a no-change proposal, because 17 million is what it should have been on June 31st. I'm sorry, June 30th. There is no June 31st.
Commissioner
Yes.
Powell, Carlene and I will work together and we'll go back and review. I was just trying to scan, but I want to focus, but we'll go back and look and we'll get a response to you in a timely manner.
Okay. The next question I have is around the health insurance recommendation. The recommendation you have here is exactly the same as what was in Resolution 578, which simply restored it to previous threshold. The resolution calls for the superintendent to be informed by the Joint Health Insurance Committee recommendations at least annually prior to publication of annual financial statements. Has the Joint Health Insurance Committee met, and what is their recommendation?
We have met, and we have been advised of the surplus, and we've also reached out to Lawley and our broker, and they feel that this amount is adequate. So Again, I'm happy to go back, take a look at the resolutions as written. We did go through that exercise, but I'm happy to do it again. And again, as I stated, we'll bring that forward to you in the form of a resolution, I guess, at this point, at the next meeting, for your acceptance. And Commissioner Powell, may I just say one thing? I appreciate the questions. What we would like to have up for consideration, because I wasn't quite done with all the recommendations yet, but just to keep in mind that this is the year that we are asking for dispensation so that we stay as liquid as possible with regard to our unrestricted. And that was something that we have talked about in meetings past, with the fact that, again, we have numerous, we just have concerns with regard to making sure that we do cover our obligations, and that we have an unrestricted balance significantly sufficient, I should say, to cover any needs that may develop in the course of the year as we move in through SRSA and ARPA. So that's all. So we will be happy to go back through, research it, and bring it forward to you. Not a problem.
So I do hear what you're saying about, and I heard you say it when you were presenting our financials, that we're going to be hitting a cash flow trough very soon. And so that certainly right now is not a great time to be talking about increasing committed fund balances. But it's also, therefore, not a great time to be asking for a resolution to assign funds. It's better that those dollars continue to reside in your available fund balances until we get to the other side of that trough. Because you're basically saying, well, once you've assigned these funds, you're basically saying they can't be used for anything else, including managing our basic cash flow. So my recommendation is that you hold off on any resolution until we get to the other side of that cash flow trough.
The only concern that we would have with that is being able to close out our year-end statements, our financial statements with our auditors. And this information is required by them to know how we are to apply the funds. So any delay there means that we would not be able to deliver the year-end report.
Are you saying that this is a recommendation for balances effective June 30th?
Right. As a matter of protocol, what I need to do is I deliver the recommendations to the superintendent. We discuss it. This year I included Dr. Jallo in the discussion as well, to make sure that we were all on the same page before we brought it forward to the board. So a lot of thought, like I said, has gone into this. We did study the resolutions, the policy. Again, I'm happy to go back through, but we want to make sure we're absolutely on firm ground before we brought it forward to you.
Based on what you just said, I'm going to revise what I said earlier. If this recommendation is for effective June 30th and the close of the 2021 books, then the $17 million for OPEB is exactly what it should be.
Thank you.
But I thought we were talking about set-asides for 21-22. So the concerns that I raised about the Joint Health Committee and about where OPEB should be is something we do need to be in active conversation about for when we're budgeting, okay? There's also, since, I don't know, about June or July, if you'll recall, I proposed some further changes to policy 6500 that nothing has happened since we had our original conversations about them at the beginning of summer. And because we are working through financial policies right now, there needs to be some more conversation and get some closure on those items, because they include possibility of further restricted funds that we might want to put into place effective 21-22 fiscal year. Okay? So thank you for the clarification that we're talking about closing out the books June 30th, 2021. And that covers it for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners with questions?
Did you
Vice
want me
President
to
Elliott?
finish the fund balance
Yes,
recommendation? Okay. So let's see, I think we left off on insurance claims. We have urban campus renewal as an assigned dollar amount of $10 million there as well, and that is for just to, again, take a look at our campuses, what they look like, the feel, the ambiance there, if you will, the structural strength, weaknesses within those buildings, and just to make sure that our campuses are fully looking alive, and we're using that as a marketing strategy too, to bring the charter students back into the district. We just want to make sure that we're fully keeping up with the expectations of our parents, what they want for their children, and also what we want for our children. The labor contracts are the retro payments, $3 million we had set aside for that from the 2021 budget. We have the 14.1 million, and you may remember this last year when we talked about it. At this point in time, we thought, at that point in time, the dollar figure was 12 million that would cover our obligation to the state for both the Phase 1 and Phase 2 for the FMP, and that was the adjustments in the interest rates. So this is the amount that we feel comfortable in stating that we owe back to New York State for the adjustment in those interest rates. We do have the health insurance, which you talked about. Assigned for encumbrances, that is an allowable set aside that we can place within the fund balance to make sure that up until typically the end of October, you're allowed to place encumbrances on expenditures. So those expenditures can be paid out of the 2021 budget. And last, we do have that unassigned balance of approximately 50.2 million. So of the total fund balance of 135 million, that represents 16.2% of the total budget, general fund budget. And again, this is general fund only. And of that amount, and again, this is all defined in current policy 6500, where you take a look at the unrestricted fund balance. It's composed of 3 different categories, that being committed, assigned, and unassigned. That total is 105.8 million roughly. That equates back to, when you take a look at the general fund operating expenditures for 2021, in section 3, subsection 3.1 of that policy, when we're using the general fund operating expenditures of 602 million, we're running currently in our unassigned or unrestricted fund balance is roughly 15%. And it states that it should not, the policy states it should not be greater than 15%, and currently we are running at 18%, which we are allowed to do that, but there is an expectation that if it is higher, what we need to do is spend that money down, and it can only be spent on one-time, non-reoccurring expenditures. So again, just to say that more clearly, our unrestricted fund balance right now is running at 18%. Policy says 15%, unless there's agreement by the board that we can exceed the 15% for one-time, non-reoccurring expenditures. And again, this is all according to policy 6500 for the fund balance. Other questions on that?
So the board needs to approve the suspension of the policy and to maintain the 18%, or we're going to have to spend it?
When I read the policy again, and again, my team and I kept going over the policy, as well as you may recall, the number of conversations we had with the OSC. It's my understanding we are allowed to exceed that with your approval, and that that amount that exceeds the amount, the 15%, so the 3% over, we have to collectively agree that it will only be expended on one-time, non-reoccurring expenditures.
So the amount that's over the 15 million?
Yes, the amount that's over the 15%. So the amount that's, okay?
I think you're going to bring it forth as a resolution at the, is it at the next board business meeting, or?
I would like to bring it forward to the next board
Which
business
is
meeting,
next
just so we can
Thursday?
close everything
Absolutely.
up. Yeah.
So let me just be clear. So we are in good shape with our fund balance.
We are in better shape, much better shape than where we were a year ago. A year ago, Leslie and I were just talking about this, where we were a year ago, and we don't want to go back there.
So you say we're much better.
Yeah.
What is it going to take us to be good? What does that mean, Carlene?
We have to remember that what happened with our fund balance in this past year and the financials was driven by COVID. And so we did not have certain wage expenditures that we didn't have to realize. We did not have certain contractual obligations that we had to pay out. So as we tried saying throughout all of last year, it was a false read of our financial condition. So now what we need to do is, in order to remain in that level or to have it sustained, we're going to have to figure out how to continue to close our budget gap. There still is a budget gap there, and that's something else that we'll get to this evening. We'll go over that again. But because you don't want to deplete fund balance. You don't want to have to always go back to the fund balance to continue to deplete it. We don't want to take away what we've accomplished this past year. So that's what we'll take a look at that this evening as well, and I'll show you what the figures are there, the projections in our long-range plan. But we did make significant progress. Another item that we had up for this evening was a more in-depth look at our charter schools. And so on this particular chart, what you're going to see is the new charter schools that are proposed for opening. All of these are currently under review with the exception of Rochester Academy of Science, which has been approved. And on the far right-hand side, you're going to see what the allowable chartered enrollment number is. And when they are anticipated to open, will all be in the same range of September 2022. So again, we just need to keep our eyes on the charter schools and how that's going to impact our enrollment. So Tom, if we can go to the next slide. Okay. Okay, so all of the numbers from...
Carlene, can I
yes.
ask a quick question? I'm so
Yes.
sorry. I missed something on slide number 4. You had mentioned something about a 15%, and I didn't know what you were talking about.
Sure.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. If you go to section 3, subsection 3.1 of our general fund balance policy, it references that it can only, that our unrestricted, or unassigned, I should say, and which includes unassigned is included within unrestricted, that the unrestricted amount can only be a maximum of 15%. At the current time, with current calculation, it's running at 18%.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, on the charter school enrollment trends, what's important to know about this particular slide is that the numbers up till from 2018 to 2021 are all reconciled. That means that those were the absolute enrollment figures that we experienced in that period of time and each of those years. The number stated for 21-22 is projected, as I said earlier, and it's projected at that rate per pupil, which is on the right-hand side, so $13,995. Next year, for 22-23, which again is a budget consideration for us, the projected enrollment is anticipated to be, I should say, at $7,407, and the projected rate per pupil is $14,195. So again, we have to keep our eye on our charter schools. I want to point out here as well that recently we received the Fitch rating for Monroe County, and as it relates to RCSD, the Fitch rating was actually, for the county overall, was reduced because of charter school impact on the schools. And so, again, where we made significant improvement with Moody's and S&P, the Fitch rating is another rating agency, and they actually lowered the Monroe County rating because of the impact of charter schools to the school districts. So I just wanted to...
Now, so what does that mean? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
About the charters, the rating?
The rating,
right.
yeah.
The rating itself means that they see that as being a risk. Fitch sees that as being a risk. The impact of charter schools to this area, to Monroe County, is seen as being a risk because it's continuing, the charter schools are continuing to take the enrollment away from the other school districts, especially RCSD.
Oh, not only RCSD,
sure, it's
but
any
other
child,
school districts.
any child that attends a charter school within RCSD. So overall, it's a Monroe County rating. It's not an RCSD rating.
But are they taking, let me just ask this question, are students from suburban schools, attending these charter schools.
They can have seats within these charter schools as well.
But we don't know for sure if that's the case that.
There is a certain number that was in there, but I don't have
Okay.
that information for you this evening.
Carlene?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Malloy. I have Commissioner Clark's hand up first. I'm going to call on him, and then I'll call on you.
Thank you.
Yes, my question related to a saturation rate. Does New York State have a rate where they indicate that we cannot go beyond as it relates to charter schools versus public?
At this time, there is no moratorium that has been established. I know that individuals as well as entities have been asking for a moratorium in this area. But when you put these, and this does not include the new charters that are just up for approval, but when I last did the calculation, the number of students actually attending the charter schools that impact us, that number of children enrolled in those programs is second only to the entire Greece school district. So that's the population that we are looking at with the total number. But it's a very valid question that you're proposing, and what should that moratorium look like, and when could it come about?
Thank you, Commissioner Malloy.
Thank you, Commissioner LeBron. I, on behalf of the board, led the required charter school public hearing this evening for the Rochester Sports Academy Charter School, and it's listed on page 5 that the charted enrollment is 500, but what I announced at the hearing tonight, it says that there's a projected enrollment of 400 students. So I'm wondering what the impact will be on that.
I would have to look that up. I don't know why there's that difference.
Okay.
Because what we do is we actually get our information right off of the state's website. That is something, again, that we've really tried to make our charter school reconciliation process much more robust, and that's part of that, is absolutely going to the state website to get the information. So I'd have to take a look to see why there's that discrepancy first.
Thank you.
I have a question for you too, Carlene, just on the projection for the enrollment trends. This is on page 6, though. Have you gone to page 6 yet? I just want to talk about the financial impact that's going to have on the district. And I know that you just mentioned that, and that is a great question about the moratorium, because people have been asking and calling for that. I do think there's going to have to be some interventions, because there will be a tipping point at some point where the district is essentially going to be gutted of our students. So with the projections between the two numbers, I just want to highlight that the rate per pupil right now is $13,995, but that the rate per pupil projected to go up, because last I heard from the state that they were going to not increase the rate per pupil for enrollment for students. Are they going to increase it in 2022, 2023 school year?
This is the information that we have, again, right from the state. So we're trying to work with the most current information that we have available to us for budgeting purposes. Because you might recall, charter schools was another area that in the past had not been adequately funded in that budget code. So we are working closely with the state. We've developed a relationship, and this is the information that we have as of today.
Interesting, okay.
The other thing, Commissioner LeBron, that I just want to bring up is that some of you may have read where Governor Hochul has, the settlement of the lawsuit has actually occurred now with the New York students' education rights. And so, as you may have heard, then foundation aid is supposed to be repaid back to the schools. And so it's wonderful news, first of all, that we should be getting all of our our foundation aid in the next couple of years. But what we need to remember, though, is that if our student enrollment continues to decline, foundation aid is no longer frozen, and that means that foundation aid will follow the declining enrollment. So even though the money is due to the school, it does not mean that we will get that whole amount that we're expecting back if our enrollment continues to decline.
Yeah, thank you for uplifting that. And I just want to, you also said that it's frozen right now. So just want to clarify, it's frozen, it was frozen by the state because of COVID. And so, is that correct?
It was frozen previously, correct, and then the state had frozen it under Governor Cuomo, and now it was just starting to release as of this past year when we received that bump in foundation aid. But now that it's not frozen, it will start to follow enrollment again. So in our case, it works against us. Many school districts are going to see an increase in foundation aid because their enrollment is increasing. In our case, because we're continually decreasing, our state aid, foundation aid will be reduced.
Thank you.
And Commissioner LeBron,
Yes,
that
Vice
means
President
that we've
Elliott.
got to make sure that